Hello, welcome to Into the Fire, a Burning Coal Theater Company podcast series.
Hi, this is Jerome Davis. I'm the artistic director of Burning Coal Theater Company, and I'd like to welcome everyone to Into the Fire, the Burning Coal Theater Company podcast series on all things theatrical. Today we have a very special guest, Tyrell Williams, the playwright for Red Pitch, a play that will be presented for the first time in the southeastern United States and for the second time ever in the United States at Burning Coal Theater Company. From February 5th through 22nd here at the Murphy School. Mr. Williams, welcome to the podcast and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a great honor to be here.
Thank you. Well, we feel the same way. We want to start out just finding out a little bit about you, if that's okay. Where are you from and how you came to write Red Pitch? I understand it's a bit of an interesting story.
Yeah, so I'm born and raised in South London in a council estate, which is perhaps the equivalent to a projects in in America.
Yeah.
And uh, I my experience of growing up in this council estate was one very much heavily rooted in community. So it's an area full of diverse people of different faiths, of different religions, of different faiths, of different ethnicities,
Right.
uh, different ages. But everybody was, my experience of it is that everybody was one big family. I remember my neighbor used to take me to school every morning because my mum had to go to work slightly earlier. So it was that kind of familial environment.
Right.
And a lot of my time was spent on a lot of my youth was spent on my council estate playing football or soccer, as you guys call it. We
Yes.
have a football pitch we had a football pitch which a lot of my friends and I would go to after school or in the 6 weeks holiday in the summer holidays to play, but not only to play football, but when I reflected on it, it was a safe space for us to also therapize one another, to speak about what we're going through without the risk of our parents eavesdropping into that. And so I remember one day when I was later on in my adult years now, I remember I was on the bus and the bus was passing where my football pitch used to be. But now at this point there were these houses built on top of that space that the football pitch was on. So the football pitch was there no more. And I remember feeling moved, particularly because these houses, not only were they built on a space that was incredibly sacred to the young people that grew up there in this area, in this council estate. But a it was that these houses had not had any residents housed in them. So it
Mm.
felt as though you'd taken the space away from these people, but you're not even using them for the purpose that they were designed to be used. It felt like these houses were just arrogantly sitting on
Mm.
something that belonged to the community, to the young people of that community. So
Right.
I was moved to write something from that. I wrote a 10-minute response, and there was this festival that was happening around about 2018. It was called the Young Hearts Writers Festival, led by an incredible artist called Anne Akin, who I respect so much. And what the way that festival works is that you submit the 10 minutes, and then the the people, the organizers, will partner you up with a director and also some actors. And that's when I met who would later become the director of Red Pitch when it went up at the Bush Theatre, and also a longtime collaborator and a very good friend of mine now, Daniel Bailey, an incredible artist also. That's where we met for the first time, and we produced something. So the way the festival works is that you had about a week or so to work on it, and then at the end of it, an invited audience come and watch, and they vote for their favorite on the night. And we won the favorite on the night. And I remember vividly Daniel telling me that you've got something here. Make sure you develop it. Make sure you continue working on it. And so I did that. The following year, I did this residency, a year-long residency at this theatre called Oval House Theatre, which is in South London, not too far from where I live. It's not there anymore. It's now been moved to Brixton, the famous Brixton, and it's renamed Brixton House for obvious reasons. And
Mhm.
we put on three scratch nights there. It sold out, but it was great for my development as a writer, but also the development of the piece because I had to take it from 10 minutes and then stretch it out to about 60 minutes and try and flesh out these characters a little bit more, populate their worlds with a bit more arcs, a bit more complexity, a bit more depth. So that was great fun. And then we had this pandemic that happened. So
Yeah,
for about
yeah,
2 years, I was just writing and sending stuff to my agent, sending stuff to Daniel, and getting notes back. And then when we came out of that, by the draft that I had produced, we had sent it to the Bush Theatre, which at this point Daniel was now the associate artistic director. When we started this journey, he wasn't, but by this point now he had become the associate artistic director of the Bush Theatre, which is a theatre in West London.
yeah.
Incredible venue, renowned for putting on new work.
Right.
And then we did a reading for the artistic director Lynette Linton,
Yeah,
who again is another incredible artist.
yeah.
And shortly after we did the reading, we heard that they were interested in putting it on, and then so got to work and yeah, we opened. We had a sold out run in 22. Another it came back in 2023 to another sold out run. 2024 we transferred to the West End.
Yeah.
2025 you mentioned we went to Maryland in the DC area. And then 2026 I'm excited to that is now on in North Carolina at the Burning Coal.
Yeah, yeah, well, that's great. When I was going to ask one question about that, have you stayed in touch with any of the folks that you were playing football with as a younger person, and do they know about the play? Do they know that the story is in some sense about all of your experiences there?
Very much so, yeah. We Some of my friends come and they watch it and they know that some of the jokes are about them, or some things that are happening, they know that it's about them. So
Nice.
it's drawing on our experiences, and they themselves are. We often reflect and say, "Wow, this is our story," and look at how far it's traveled. Look at how it's connecting with so many different types of people. So that's something that we are incredibly grateful for.
Sure. Now, was that 10-minute piece the first thing you'd ever written, Mr. Williams, or had you wanted to be a writer from an early age, or what was that path for you?
Well, yeah, I've always been interested in the arts. I went to university to study creative writing and journalism, though I didn't know that I wanted to be a writer until maybe about the final year into that. Red Pitch was my first stage production, but a few years before I wrote a web series called Hood Documentary with a friend of mine called Coyote Awumi, and it was a comedy about a rapper, dancer, and actor who claims to be great at all those things, but he is actually terrible at all of them. And so it's really just essentially watching him fail. And it spawned a meme that's used quite widely. If only I could monetize. If I knew how to monetize off memes, I would definitely try and do that. But it's yeah, that my journey into writing is one that was something that had been a passion of mine, though it wasn't always a career choice. It was me pursuing a passion from a young age. It was the one time the teachers would show my work to the rest of the class as an example of what we should be doing. It felt quite easy and quite natural to imagine and to create. Um, so yeah, for me, it was something that's always been a passion, and probably when I got into my final year at university, that was when I made the decision to say I'm going to do this full time.
Had you seen a lot of theater in advance of that, or was most of the narrative structure that you were familiar with television or film writing, or how did theater come into that?
I was really big on theater and still am. I love, love, love theater. When I was in year 11 in high school, in secondary school, the Young Vic Theatre, which is an incredible venue, would come to my secondary school and do loads of workshops with young people. And then they do a lot of partnerships with schools, but they do a lot of partnerships with community as well. And because I fit the catchment area, I was also allowed to access that venue in many different ways and utilize its many benefits in many different ways. So the Young Vic was really my first point of call for theatre from about the age of 15, 16 years old. And I love GCSE drama as well. I always love the idea of playing and storytelling
Yeah.
and creating characters. I really love characters and interrogating characters and exploring human beings. That's something that when I reflect, that's something I've enjoyed from a young age. And I felt theatre was a great vehicle to do that because you could do it in so many ways. It allowed an abstract, an abstract exploration in a way that film and TV doesn't always offer. And I remember my early memories of going to the Young Vic and being blown away by the productions that they put on and just the magic that was created on stage. I remember the magic that in thinking how have they accomplished that, but also
Mhm.
the feeling that it gives you when you leave, like wow, that was really something. So yeah, I've my I really enjoyed theatre, which perhaps my has been my first point of call into storytelling.
I know Frank Dunlop died recently, the man who created the Young Vic years and years ago, back before the earth cooled, as my wife likes to say. But he's been underappreciated, I think, in the last maybe 20 or 30 years, and but certainly that venue seems to be going strong and. Maybe stronger than it ever has been. So he's definitely left a legacy behind that will affect a lot of people. I was thinking about this might sound funny, but I was thinking about your play while I was watching Hamnet. Have you seen the?
I haven't, unfortunately, but it's on my list. There's loads of films that are on my list that I need to watch.
Not to give anything away, but it's. I walked out afterward and I was very moved. And my wife said, "What's it about? What do you think it's about?" And I said, there are two options at the end of your life. You can die, or you can die and be remembered. Um,
Mm,
and in Hamnet, Shakespeare is making sure that his son falls into the latter camp, and it's about the way that his wife comes to appreciate what art can do in that way. And I was thinking about your play in the context of that neighborhood, that community. All things change eventually. Whether it's 10 years later, 20 years later, or 200 years later, we know that everything is going to change, but will it be remembered? And it seems to me that your play has assured that that will be the case for your community and the people there and the buildings there and the pitch.
yeah.
Do
Thank
you,
you for saying that. Yeah, yeah. I've fictionalized some of the areas, but everyone who is familiar, like there's some areas that are that are the same. So
yeah,
people know exactly where I'm speaking about, and I
right,
appreciate you saying that because that's part of the game, really.
yeah. Do you have role models? You've mentioned Lynette Linton and
Mm.
your director from the first iterations of the play. Are there other people that you've worked with or that you have, admired from afar that have guided you in one way or another as an artist?
Man, there's so many. There's so many. I always fear bringing out a list because there's names that I'm certainly gonna forget.
Yeah,
There's so many. I think, as you said, Lynette is definitely one. Lynette Linton, Daniel Bailey is another. An incredible director, Ola Ince, who I assisted. That was the first time I assisted director, ironically, at a show at the Young Vic. So she was a massive and still is a massive inspiration.
sure.
Uh, I think about Ellen McDougall, who was another person I assisted, and she opened up my eyes to the world of what theatre could be, really interrogating, asking the existential question, what is theatre? What is the actual practice of people coming into a room, entering a space and receiving a story? And then I think about Inua Ellams, who's an incredible writer, wrote Barbershop Chronicles,
Yes.
other incredible plays. Arinze Kenye, Natasha Gordon, Winston Pinnock, Roy Williams, Roy Alexander Wise. Anthony Simpson Pike. There's so many names, and I'm sure I'm forgetting people. I'm sure I'm forgetting some folks.
Sure, of course.
But
There's
I'm
always
really inspired by my peers. A, a lot of people around me who have, I feel in many ways, all the people that I've listed, Bolahan Abesison, I don't know if I said his name, but all of those people that I've listed have opened up doors for me. And I remember growing up watching their work and seeing characters that represented me and my world in their stories, and thinking, oh wow, actually, you know what, this is something that I can do. Yeah, and then I've the likes of Ivo van Hove. I think I'm a big fan of his work. I think I love the bravery behind his choices. Um, I think some stuff I've seen by Eyal Faber has been incredible.
mm, yeah.
Yeah, I'm constantly inspired by the work that Complicité do. I'm incredibly inspired by them. I think their work is incredible.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm inspired by loads of things and loads of people.
It sounds like bold choices are inspiring. And this play seems to have touched a lot of people beyond your community. Do you think there's a reason for that? You know, in some ways, you feel like the more specific you get, the less a play might appeal to a broader subset of society. But that doesn't seem to be the case here, from what I can
Yeah.
tell. Do you have any thoughts about what it is that's touching people in the play?
It's interesting. Another one of my inspirations is Martin Scorsese, who I love. I love his films because I love how he portrays flawed people and tries to humanize them. And he always says that the universal is in the personal. And in this particular, I think this play has really cemented that idea for me because surprisingly, as you've mentioned, a lot of people who I didn't initially think would connect to the story have found it incredibly moving and edifying for different reasons. And I believe that, and I believe that a lot of what is allowing people to access it is the human at the core of it and the vulnerability in that exploration and the vulnerability in the exploration of the masculine, the way that it's
Hmm.
discussing that these boys who essentially love each other, but they're at that age where they don't have the language to communicate that, and they also don't have the language to communicate that they don't want to leave each other. They're gonna miss each other if things change. Um, so I think is that those feelings of love and brotherhood, and connecting, like strong connections, and the inevitability that life presents when people just drift apart. The familiarity of those experiences and themes that draw people into it, regardless of their backgrounds.
Yeah, I feel that very much, and I don't really think we're getting a lot of that in our culture right now. We're not getting a lot of stories about friendship. There's a lot of well, one of the things that fascinates me about the play is unless you count the bulldozers. There aren't any villains in the piece, you know. There
Yeah.
isn't any straw men set up so we can knock them down. In some way, in some way the bulldozer represents progress. The young men want to move beyond where they are. In some way they want to be successful, but I think what's most important to them is that they not leave it behind, that they not leave that part of themselves behind. And so we see the drama or the conflict in the play. It feels to me like is internal, more it's about, to borrow from the Clash, should I stay or should I go? And they know they have to go, but they also know that they have to stay if they're going to remain who they are. And I just wanted to compliment the play and compliment you as the writer for not going down that path of the easy villain and that sort of thing. It's much more like life, it seems to me, than most of the things that we see in our culture today, where particularly men seem to be set up, as these sort of villainous people, that are incapable of love or incapable of home, having a home. So kudos for that, for writing that. Um, do
Thank
you
you.
do you think the play has a future in another medium? I'm curious because it does seem like somehow it feels like it could expand, like their stories could follow. We could follow them through their lives, maybe in the way that Michael Apted did with the Seven Up series, if you know that, where every 7 years he visits. Have you thought about that sort of thing about holding on to them a little longer, or do you need to move on?
I would love to. I would love. I love it as a stage play. I would love to see it on the screen in some capacity. I think as a film, I'm leaning towards. I think there's something nice about spending a contained amount of time with these characters
Yeah,
and leaving them in the same place. I like where we leave them. I like that we don't know exactly what will happen to them next, except that they will attempt to maintain this friendship. And I think that screen would, is particularly film would be a great medium to tell the story and expand on the ideas that are seeded in the stage play and those dream sequences really sell those on like playing in the stadium of Arsenal, the greatest football team in the world.
sure.
Just really, yeah, drawing on those things I think could be really exciting on screen. So that's what I'm working on. And I'm hoping that one day someone will help us make it in terms of someone will back it. But yeah, that's some of the ambitions I have for it.
I stayed with a friend, a playwright named Claire Bailey, who had a play done at the Young Vic. I don't know if you know her. She had a play called The Container done there a
Mm,
few years
sounds
ago,
familiar.
and she lives up near the Arsenal Stadium. And
Mm.
it's actually right between the tube stop and the stadium. And on Sunday, one morning, I went out to buy a coffee, and I walked out on the street, and it was full of people. I mean, full, like
Yeah.
elbow to elbow, walking up the street. And I swear to God, they each had two beers in their hand, like these two giant. And they were the most polite people. I thought, how am I going to get through this crowd? They were so polite and so sweet and right this
Yeah.
way, and stuff. It didn't feel like the sort of hooligan idea.
No, I'm glad you said that because as you know, Arsenal, we pride ourselves as a club of class. That's what we call ourselves. So the fact that you could recount that anecdote and it supports that is great. And yeah, a great. Did you ever go to a game?
No, I didn't. I haven't worked up the nerve yet, but I will at some point. I'm
That's
going to
the
be
next
over
step.
there for about 3 weeks in April and early May. So I might go if there's. Do they play at that time of year, or
Yeah,
is that out of?
it's towards the end, especially like May. May you're coming towards the very end, but I think April you'll still be good. You'll still be able to catch some games.
Okay. We'll do it then. That's a good recommendation. Last question or two, if I may. What are you working on now? What's next for you?
So I've got a few other stage productions that I'm working on.
Mhm.
Um, very exciting. I mean, lots that I can't really go into a lot of detail about, but
Right.
um, very exciting projects, very challenging. I really like to challenge myself as an artist and not try and do the same thing again. So it
Mhm.
feels as though it's pushing me out in one way or another and stretching me as a creative, as an artist. So really excited by that. I'm working on a monologue. That's one of the stage things that I'm working on, and that's really new for me. So to try to attempt to tell a story in that way feels really exciting and also challenging at the same time, but a challenge that I'm very much up for, and it feels as though it's expanding me as an artist. and then some screen stuff that I'm working on. I've worked on a comedy that should be coming out at some point this year.
Oh, nice.
Thank you. So I wrote an episode on that. It's set in a high school down here, and it's really just exploring, created by another incredible artist, Delia Renee Donaldson, and it's exploring the what life is like in school. She used to be a teacher, so she has loads of funny stories about the kids and the staff as well, and
Okay.
what they get up to. So yeah, that should be great fun when that comes out. And another exciting TV project I have in development that I'm hoping gets greenlit as well. But you can never guarantee yeah, in stage or screen if something gets greenlit. But you got to remain hopeful.
Yeah, they're always in process, in development. Yeah,
Exactly. That's pretty much the job, being in development.
right, right.
Something gets
Well,
out there.
and then my last question for you, Mr. Williams, we would love to know what you would like to do with your life. The life of a playwright the future? Is that how you want to go, or do you see yourself becoming a director, working more in film, doing other things, becoming an artistic director? Perhaps what's the future?
Interesting. I've never considered the AD role, though I have a lot of admiration for the work that you guys do. Uh, for me, I consider myself a storyteller, so I would love to move between mediums,
Mm.
screen, stage, radio, and continue to challenge myself. We spoke about legacy earlier, and that's really big for me. I want to create work that lasts. I don't want to create work that feels like it's here today and gone tomorrow. I want to create work that feels like it lasts and it can stand the test of time. So those that's my aim really, to continue to connect with audiences, and like I say, it's such an honor for me to have this show put on at your venue, because when I was writing, I could have never thought that the work would reach so many people, but I would love to connect with people all over the world through stories. So that's the goal.
You're doing it. Branch out, do other mediums, but don't ever let us go entirely. We need you in the theater. So,
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much.
Tyrell Williams, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast. We appreciate it. The play is Red Pitch, and it runs at Burning Coal February 5th through 22nd, directed by Avis Hatcher Puzo, who has a dance background, by the way. She worked with the Alvin Ailey Company for a while, so we think that's going to be a good fit for this play. And Mr. Williams, we're going to be there for a couple of weeks at a theater called The Cockpit in Marleybone, doing a couple of monologues, a play called Howie the Rookie, at the end of April, beginning of May. So if you happen to be in the Marleybone area, come and see us in Howie the Rookie.
I would love to. Thank you so much. Yeah, I would be there. I'm going to be there for sure.
Okay. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Take care.